Hello, middle school. Last year here at Montgomery School, I was a new student. Being new is very scary. You need to meet new people and get used to different things that you never did in your other school. Luckily, I had students and teachers to show me around the school and help me understand how everything goes. I could just not believe how nice everyone was. I was also surprised at how many people knew my name on the very first day. I was so nervous that I never asked for anyone's name, but was quickly able to learn them just by listening to people talk. I'm not very good at talking to people, and I find it challenging to converse with people that don't share the same interests as I. But I feel that I have gotten a little bit better at that. Most students in other schools would probably not know a new student's name in the first couple of weeks, or even months, let alone the very first day of school. The summer before I came to Montgomery, I was getting stressed because that is just what happened to me before the start of school. This would be the second year in a row that I would be switching schools, and if you get easily stressed out like I do, then that is not a good thing. You might have noticed that when I first came here to Montgomery, that I was stressed and I could not control it. Most of the time I had so many things in my mind that I could not think straight. I got less stressed as time passed, and I was able to get used to the way things worked here. This was a new experience for me coming to Montgomery, and it was scary for me at first, but I realized that there were people here to help me through the changing of a new school. I'm glad that I came here, even though I was stressed at first. I know that I am better off here than where I was before. I'm so glad that I came here and made all new friends. The last school that I went to was a public school, and it was nothing like how it is here at Montgomery. I was only there for 6th grade, and I was scared to start middle school. I knew that there would be much harder work and that there was more being expected of me. After a while of being in middle school, I realized that the work I had was just as easy as the work I had in elementary school. I never really had much of a hard time with schoolwork in elementary school, and I thought that middle school would be much harder. We did get more projects than usual in middle school, but other than that, I never had any trouble. I also remember that any homework that I got, I finished that night. It was just so easy that there was no reason for me to get it all done to not get it done in about half an hour. We were also not required to play after school sports, which meant that we got home at around 2:20. After that, I just played Xbox for hours on end. How silly of me to think that was good for me. I could have seriously injured my thumbs. Thank God I switched to PC games, so the only thing getting hurt are my WASD keys. So I obviously had a lot of time on my hands. In my old middle school, we had something called the gifted class, or at least that's what everyone called it. There was some sort of acronym for it that I could never remember, but it was really just a class for the smarter people in each grade. For the people that didn't have gifted class, they had some sort of writing class. The gifted class was the only class that wasn't super easy, and each trimester we had a different project we worked on during some of the class time. I always enjoyed these classes for some reason. Maybe it was just getting away from the stress of my other classes to be with some of the people that I had gone through all of elementary school with. After 6th grade, my parents decided that I should go to Montgomery for a better education. My sister's friend came here a year before us, and the year before that, and her parents told my parents, and that is how we found out about Montgomery. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to join the school before summer ended, which meant that I had to do 2 different types of homework, so I got stressed out about that too. I always waited until the last month to do my summer homework. I did the summer homework for Montgomery first because, unlike my other school, I only had to read books and answer questions on them. Luckily, after I finished that, I found out that I was definitely going to Montgomery. This meant that I did not have to waste my time doing unnecessary homework. This made me very happy, and I didn't have to do any extra work. My sister and I went on a tour of the school with my sister's friend, Emma, who came here to the school the year before us. She told us about all the different types of lunches, the different classes, and chapels. When she explained the chapels to us, I didn't really understand what they were and how they worked. I didn't really fully understand them until we had our first chapel. I started to understand that it was sort of like a school assembly. Eventually I learned that there was a middle school chapel on Tuesdays, lower school chapel on Wednesdays, and an all-school chapel on Fridays. After about a week or two, I had gotten the schedule all figured out. And I only went into the wrong class twice in the whole year. I was finally getting the hang of things and started understanding everything that was going on. I would still get confused about the schedule sometimes and think that it was a chapel day when it really wasn't. I know how all my classes are scheduled now, and I don't have that problem anymore. At my old school, we didn't have much freedom. Teachers had to know where everyone was at all times. We had to use hall passes and bathroom passes if we wanted to go anywhere during class. There were even sign-out sheets where we had to put down our name, destination, and what time you leave. Once you got back to that classroom, you would have to write down the time you got back. This meant that if someone wanted to drink from the water fountain, they would have to fill out a sign-out sheet. I never understood why they would do this, because making a person sign out just to get a drink would just waste more time where the student could be learning. I remember there being lines in front of the bathroom sign-out sheet, and it always took a long time to wait. Sometimes I think we get a little too much freedom here at Montgomery, because last year when we started the second trimester, I knew that I could choose between the play or basketball. I did the play because I knew I wasn't very good at basketball. But I realized that I didn't know where I had to go for the play, and there was no one walking around. I thought that someone had said that the play was in the library, so I checked there first. I later found out that the actual play was going to be performed in the library. I walked around until I saw Mr. Klein, and he told me that the play was in the middle school music room. That was how I got into the play, but no one ever told me before where the play was going to be. I'm glad that we don't have sign-out sheets in every class, though. In my other school, we also had locks in our lockers because people would steal other people's things. One of my friends even had their phone stolen, and we had locks in our lockers. I like how at Montgomery we don't need locks in our lockers and that everyone can be trusted. In my old school, we had uniforms, and we wore khaki pants, white, black, or red polo shirts. I never minded wearing those uniforms, but I would have much rather not worn them at all. I remember when I first got my uniform from Montgomery, I was really worried about having to wear a tie. I had never worn a tie before I came here, so I started stressing out about that too. I was starting to stress out about if I was going to be able to tie my tie every morning before school. After only the first week, I learned that I could just loosen the tie every day after I got home and just take it off around my head. That means that this tie that I'm wearing has not been untied since last year. Is there anyone else that does this? I still know how to tie a tie, but this is really just one of the life hacks that I have learned. Some of these things might seem weird to get stressed over for, but I always get stressed over the slightest change in anything that I did. I also have this thing where I have to set my clothes out for the next morning before I go to bed, because I get stressed out if I don't have everything ready. My first year in middle school, when I was in 6th grade, I never bought lunch, so I had a packed lunch every day instead. I would sometimes buy lunch when I was in elementary school, but most of the time I had packed lunch. Usually I ate a sandwich, an apple, and some chips. Everyone that bought lunch had to have lunch money in their account, or they would not be able to eat lunch that day. Every time someone bought a lunch, they would have to enter their password. This caused people to use someone else's number without their permission. One morning there was some sort of fight and one student threw another student through one of the windows of the lunchroom. The window broke and they both got suspended. During lunch, no one was allowed to sit at the table next to the window, and I was glad that I didn't get thrown through the window. During my first year here at Montgomery, I have made many new friends. I was never good at talking to people, and I would get stressed out about meeting new people. I also had friends at my other school. In elementary school, I had a friend named Alex. When I was in first grade, and we were best friends. He loved superhero stuff, and his favorite superhero was the Hulk. Back then, I never watched any superhero movies or anything like that. Now that I have seen most of the Marvel movies, I realize that not many people like the Hulk. I didn't know or really care about this at the time, but now I realize how cool he was. Near the end of the school year, Alex started having seizures, so his parents took him to the hospital. Alex was getting very sick, and none of the hospitals that he went to knew what was wrong with him. After a while, Alex passed away, and I was very sad. I remember the last time I saw him, he was laying in a hospital bed, and we watched all of the Spider-Man movies together. His room at the hospital had cards covering every part of the wall, and he actually broke the record at the hospital for most get well soon cards. There was also a memorial made for Alex at the front of my elementary school, and a tree was planted there for him. After Alex died, his parents gave me these. Those were Hulk hands. They hang in my wall in my bedroom every day. After that, I made other friends, but none of them were as nice as Alex was. I remember in middle school when my bus was full and I had nowhere to sit, and no one, not even my best friend at the time, let me sit next to them, and the bus driver was yelling at me to sit down, so I sat on the floor for the ride. Luckily now I don't have that problem anymore because now I have a big bus in the morning with only my sister, her friends, and Deuce. A couple of weeks into 6th grade, I made a friend named Chris. He was nice and quiet like me, so we ate lunch together every day. Chris was the last friend I had before I came to Montgomery. All my other friends weren't really good friends, and they would normally just make fun of me. I had been pretty lucky with the teachers that I had in other schools. All of them had been nice to me, and the best teacher I had was my 4th grade teacher. His name was Mr. Wagner, and he was very kind. He wanted to see us achieve great things, and he wanted to see us do our best. There are things that teachers will do for their students, such as help them with homework and spend time with them to make sure that they learn a certain concept. But one thing that a teacher did for me that I had never seen any other teacher do was when I first came to Montgomery. It was probably the first week of school, and I had to take the bus home for the first time instead of having my parents pick me up. I was ready to go home after a long day of school, and I had lots of homework to get done. I step on the bus, and the bus driver tells me that I wasn't allowed on. I was confused, and then I realized that my bus information must not have been given to Montgomery from my other school. I was not allowed to go home on the bus, so the bus had to go off without me. I started to get stressed out when I realized that, that I had a bag full of homework, and I would have to wait 45 minutes for my parents to get to the school, and then have a 45-minute ride home. Mrs. Vesey told Dr. Hall that she would take me home, and she did. I was so thankful for Mrs. Vesey doing that for me. I wouldn't have to wait a long time to get get home and get my homework done. Mrs. Vesey didn't have to take me home that day, but she did, and that was a true act of kindness. There are little things in life that make make a difference for everyone. You could be the deciding factor of that difference. Even by doing small things for someone could have a very big impact on them. If you are ever new to a school or a group of some sort, just remember that you are not the only one, that you are not alone, and that other people are having the same worries as you. Next year, all the 8th graders will be new students, and we aren't all going to be in the same schools. We will have to meet new friends, and we will all be new together. So whenever you see a new student, make sure to say hello to them and treat them kindly. You have no idea what might be going on in someone's life, and just talking to them and making them feel happy might just brighten their day. Thank you.